Bonjour les YouTubes, my name is John and in this video we're going to be continuing learning all about Umbraco v9. Now the focus in today's video is all about solution structure. So in Umbraco v9, in case you didn't know, we're using .NET Core, .NET 5, whichever you want to call it. Now this is a big change compared to v7 and v8 which use ASP.NET Framework. Now, a lot of people are wondering, what are the big differences between the two? And this is what we're going to cover in this video. So hopefully I'm going to help you structure your solution for success. So we're going to talk about, where the things like web config and global ASX now live and where the corresponding v9 places are. I'm also going to look at the model builder and show you how to set up the config for that. So we can have a look at a bit of app settings and where we need to add them. Finally, we're going to have a look at the class libraries. So I'm going to show you how to set up your solution so you can start writing your code in a separate class library. To do this, we're obviously going to need to have the correct Umbraco NuGet packages installed in our different libraries. So I'll show you all of that. And then after that, we're going to quickly look at route hijacking. So we're going to create a controller and we're also going to use our models generated by the models builder just to quickly render a very basic view. So basically after today's video, you'll be set up for success. And in the next video, we can start doing some cool stuff like building pages, components, all of that amazing content modeling stuff that we all love. Now, if you haven't come across my videos before, my name is John, as I said, and I do weekly YouTube videos, stuff like CMS, developer productivity, JavaScript, all that amazing stuff. So basically, if you want to become better at your job, and it's all going to be for free, smash the subscribe button and do not be a numpty. So assuming you've done that, let's jump into Visual Studio right now and let's start talking about all these differences. The first thing that you're going to notice as soon as you install Umbraco v9 gone are the web config and the global ASX. So instead, when you open up the CMS now, you're going to be presented with these three files. So appsettings.json, program.cs, startup.cs. And the first file that's going to get called when your application bootstraps is program.cs. Now, if we have a quick peek within here, you can see that we've got a class and now we have a main. So this is a bit weird and different compared to how things used to work. Now, let's say I did a quick build and I went to a publish. So this is going to get my output files. Now, I've already done this, so let's open it up. Now, as you can see here, I've actually got an exe now. And that's because when we're using .NET 5, instead of just pointing to web files, we're actually working with a console application. And this is the thing which is going to bootstrap our application. Now, after we have our main method, we're going to call this create host builder. And the thing that you really care here is that we've got this use startup script. And as you can see, we're going to be using this startup type. So this exactly here is startup.cs. And this basically can be thought of as the same as the global ASX. Back in the olden days, in here we have two important methods. So we have our configure services, and this is where we're going to do our dependency injection and register all the good stuff like that. We also have configure. And this is where we're going to add in middleware, and basically we're going to bootstrap how the application works. So basically think in old days, if you were going to hook into the request pipeline right at the beginning, as you would in the global SAX, you'd do stuff here. So one of the key things with Umbraco is we've got this app.useUmbraco. So this is going to bootstrap the Umbraco CMS. You can see that we've got some bits which are going to enable the back office, enable all the bits and bobs that we need in the website. In here, we're going to have stuff like composers and components getting registered and all that beautiful stuff. Now, some things which are probably interesting and worthwhile to know, that obviously the order of execution is probably important. So keep that in mind if you start playing around in here. But in general, this is all you need to know about getting up and running. Simple. Now, let's have a look at our app settings. So gone are our web configs for the time being. If you notice when we do a publish back over here, there will be a web config floating around here somewhere. So IIS still needs a web config to run. However, in our application, we don't need to worry about it anymore. And this is a basically app settings app settings.json even, get my words out, is basically a JSON file. So in here we can just add any of our application settings. So as you can see, we've got our connection string where it's defined. There's a whole host for Umbraco, so we've got our CMS. Now I've already added in my model builder config, which we'll be going through shortly. However, this now is where we add our application settings. Again, dead simple. Now, next, let's have a look at the Umbraco folder. So as you can see here, it's not include, there we go. As you can see in here, we've now got an Umbraco folder and it's got some interesting stuff in it. So as you can see straight off, logs, this is really handy. Now, if you're using Umbraco Model Builder out of the box, when you start generating models, they're going to be generated within this folder. Now, personally, I don't like this approach. Whenever I set myself up for success, I like to structure my projects so that I write all my custom code in a separate class library. Now, this can be really useful when you're trying to upgrade code, do some maintenance. Say, imagine you're going from ASP.framework to .NET Core. Imagine if you had all your custom code in a separate assembly, it's actually going to make your upgrade life much easier. So I 100% recommend that you carry on with that pattern. As you can see, in here we also have Umbraco install. So this is where the installer is going to live. We have all the files for the Umbraco website. So basically, and we have our config in here now. So in this Umbraco folder, you're not having a app data folder anymore. If you're trying to look for something Umbraco specific, have a look within here. Now, this is pretty much everything you need to understand about the differences between V9 and V8 in terms of like project structure. Pretty simple. There's probably nothing to be too panicked about. Now, let's quickly have a look at all of our dependencies. So as you can see here in my projects, I've got a package reference to Umbraco CMS. And for this one, I'm also using the starter kit. You can do your same. Now, as I was saying at the start of the video, I also like to have my solution split into 3 parts. So I like to create a class library just for the Umbraco model builders. So as you can see here, these are all the document types which have been created in the CMS. And then I also have a core library. And basically in the core library, I like to put all my custom code, so my controllers. Now, if you're new to Umbraco, and I'm talking about Model Builder, and you have no idea what I'm on about, let's quickly fire up Umbraco so you can have a little peek. So basically, with Umbraco development, we can do model first development. So this means that you can log into the CMS itself. Once you're into the CMS, you can start creating your pages and your components and all of that stuff. And then when you're in the CMS, you can basically click a button, and that button is then going to generate a load of C# classes for you. So remember, we looked in this class library, we saw all of these beautiful blog post, contact. So these are all document types. Let's quickly log in. Oh, password. There we go. So when you're inside of the Umbraco editor, if you go to the settings at the top right here, and then you go to the models builder, you can then simply click on this button and click on generate models. So if I look in my document types, so this little folder here, you can see that I've got blog, contact, home. And then these now completely map to the classes here. So contact, blog, home. So if you're doing development, I highly recommend that you follow this pattern. And if you like stuff like MVC and you like good separation of concerns, you're interested in doing solid patterns, and you're trying to create a website which is going to be flexible and easy to maintain, this is the way to go. So out of the box, if I quickly go to the Umbraco website, what you'll notice is there's a few ways of configuring Model Builder. So configuration. Now out of the box, the models, as I said, are going to be generated within the Umbraco folder. So within this folder here, there we go. So in here, when you click that generate button, you're going to get a folder called models, and all of those C# classes are going to be created here. Now the problem with this is that if you're actually going to try and create your own custom class library, this approach is not going to work for you. So think about this. When you're working with Visual Studio, you have things called a cyclic dependency or circular reference, whichever way you want to call it. So if I have all of my models defined in here, and let's say I wanted to create some custom controllers in here, I'm going to have a problem. What's going to happen is that this class library here is going to have a dependency on this. However, because all the models are here, this will now need to reference my web root. And this isn't going to allow your development to work. So this is the reason why we actually need this separate class library. So we've got this Umbraco models here. So when we're doing our generates, if we can generate our models in a separate class library, it means that we're going to be able to access and write some custom code within our own class library, and life is going to be peachy and amazing. So when you're setting yourself up with Umbraco, before you actually start creating pages, I highly recommend that you set this structure up for yourself. So let's have a look at how we can do that. So what we do is go back to our Solution Explorer, have a look within our app settings. Now in app settings, what you'll need to do yourself is within the Umbraco tag, create yourself a models builder section. Now, as you can see here, I've got my models mode as source code manual. So this means that when I generate the models inside of the CMS, I have to compile the project in code for the changes to work. Now, another really key thing is that by default, Umbraco basically won't allow you to generate your models anywhere outside of the web root. So if you want to put anything within, say, your app plugins folder or your www root, that will be absolutely fine. However, if you start trying to move things outside of the web root here and put it into a different class library, you're not going to be allowed. So basically if you try and do this in this models directory path, by default, you're going to get an exception. There's going to be some, terrible warning that you're trying to blow up the world and all that sort of stuff. And this is the reason why you need to put this accept unsafe models directory. So you need to put this line in, set it to true, and then in your models directory, you can do a tilde, then a // and then Umbraco models. So if we go back to my folder structure here, let's have a look at it. So as you can see, I've got my website here. I've # tilde, which goes back, and then I've got my Umbraco models folder here. And then in here, I've now got all my custom C# items. Amazing. So just doing that, you're probably going to bump into a few hurdles. And when you try and compile the project, things are probably going to go a bit wrong for you. And this is because you're going to need to have all the correct NuGet dependencies. So what we want to do is try and find manage NuGet packages. Because I'm debugging, obviously I can't access them, so let's just turn off our debugger. So manage NuGet packages from the menu. So in order to get the Umbraco model building part working in its own class library, you're going to need to add references to the Umbraco CMS core and the Umbraco CMS infrastructure. Now, if you're trying to do this with the starter kit, which is the most popular starter kit with Umbraco, you're also going to have to do this Bergmania OpenStreetMap. Now, some important things to note is that when you're installing these packages, you need to make sure that you're using the correct version. So as you can see here, I'm using version 9. However, there is a 9.10 RC out. And basically this 9 version here needs to map up with the NuGet package version here. So umbraco.cms, so 900. And actually, while we're at it, how do you know which Umbraco packages are .NET 5 or V9 and which are V8 and below? So as you can see here, this is called umbraco.cms, and the important thing of here is the dot. Now if we go and browse for Umbraco, what we'll notice is that we have Umbraco CMS, and this is set to version 8. And as you'll notice here, we've got Umbraco, no dot here, and this is also set to V8. So basically a good way when you're searching for stuff is that anything which is .NET 5 usually is going to be an Umbraco dot rather than no dot. Little tip from me to you. So we've got our model builder working. Let's have a look at our class library. So in our class library, I've got a controller. Now again, this is going to reference loads of Umbraco bits and bobs. So let's have a look at the NuGet packages that you need to include. And there's a tutorial link below, so don't worry about trying to copy it off the screen because that's probably a little bit annoying. So as you can see, if we go to installed, the packages that I have in here are umbraco.cms.web.website, umbraco.cms.web.common, umbraco.cms.core, ASP.NET, ASP.NET Core MVC abstractions, and Microsoft ASP.NET.MVC. So if you want to start creating your controllers in your own class library, you're going to need to include all of this beautiful stuff. And again, remember, make sure that you're marrying up the numbers. So as you can see here, I've got 9, I've got 9, I've got 9. So you might want to make sure they all map. Perfect. Now, next, let's have a look at controllers. Now, opening up my controller, you can see things are probably a little different, but pretty much the same as they were in V8. So we still have our render MVC controller. This is our Umbraco base type, and this comes out of the box. So we might cover this in a bit more detail in a future video. Now, when you're inheriting from render controller, you're also going to have to start thinking about this constructor. So as you can see here, we've got 3 bits. So we've got this iLogger, iCompositeView, iUmbraco context accessor. And let's forget the bottom one. And then you also need to pass this down into a base type, as you can see here. Now, when we're going to our index method, you can see that we have a public override. We're using iAction now, or iAction results, because this is .NET Core and we work to interfaces because we like that. And then in here, we're returning our view. So as normal, MVC, nothing's really changed. If we look inside our web application and we go into our view folder, you can see that I've created a beautiful folder called home. And in here, we've got an index CS.html, which just says hello. Now, let's have a look at some interesting things about this. So the first thing is that we've got our home. So remember that we used our Umbraco model builder. So we've got a document type within the CMS and it is called home. So when you're setting up your own controllers and you're trying to do route hijacking, and this is what this approach is called, is as you'll see that it's called the home controller. Again, this is really important. The document type alias needs to match this name here, otherwise things are not going to work. And again, we're passing in our base type right here into the iLogger. Now, another little interesting thing from V8 to V9 is that our models now have 2 constructor arguments. First, you can get access to the current page, and that's going to give you your iPublish content. So this is going to be the CMS data. So this is going to type it into a nice, strongly typed model for us. Now, home also has a second parameter, which is a bit more tricky, and that is this published fallback model, or published value fallback, sorry. So as you can see, this one right here, and this one is a little bit more trickier. However, all you need to do is in your constructor, simply pass in your iPublished value as a type, save it as an instance variable, as you can see I'm doing right here, and then finally just pass it in as the second parameter. And this is all you need to do. So just following this simple approach, you've got your Umbraco model builder. We're passing in and doing route hijacking because the name is the same. Within our action, we're then getting our home model. We're instantiating it using current page, and current page comes from our render controller. So that's a special property. And then we've also got this published fallback value, which we're passing in as a constructor argument. And basically doing all this means that when we launch our page, we're going to see a beautiful hello page. So hopefully this loads quick and it doesn't take too long. As you can see now, as it's loading, we're going to get a beautiful home message. There we go, hello. And that's pretty much everything that you need to know to get up and running. So as I was saying, just a quick recap, I recommend before you start building anything in Anger is that you use Umbraco Model Builder and you generate your models in a separate class library. Then in your solution, I recommend that you put all your custom code in a separate class library. And what will happen is your class library will need to reference the models projects. And then your website will also need to reference models and core. And doing it this way means you're not going to have any circular dependencies and you can set yourself up for development success. I hope that you found that interesting. I know project structure and class setup might not be the most exciting topic in the world at times. However, it is really important that you set yourself up successfully whenever you start a new project, because doing things the right way is going to save you loads of time and headaches later on. Now, at the moment, we've set ourselves up Umbraco. We know how to configure our website. In the remaining of this series, we can start doing some more complicated stuff. Eventually, we're going to be upgrading our website. We're going to go through the whole of that process. However, at the moment, we're just taking baby steps to understand the differences between V8, V9. So if you have anything that you want me to cover, please leave a comment below. These videos are for you. I don't just want to waffle in front of a camera. So if you want to see something, leave a comment, because this is the reason why this video happened, because 2 people asked for it. Now, again, this is that time of the video. Smash the subscribe button, be a legend, don't lose the content. By now, if you've watched all this video, you get a gist of what I'm about. Smash subscribe. Again, if you like this, I do this free of charge. It's a Saturday morning, I could be down the pub having a beer. Instead, I'm recording a video. So if you want to do me an absolute solid, hit that like button, trick the YouTube algorithm into sharing my videos to more people, so eventually I can have world domination. Otherwise, I also do a weekly Sunday newsletter, link below, subscribe to that. Again, all the code you've seen today, all the tutorials, so you can get yourself set up quickly without having to try and copy things off the video, down below. Hope you found this video insightful. Hope you're having an amazing day wherever you are in the world, and happy coding.